Venture X from Capital One is the travel card for people always asking,
where next?
You earn 10x miles on hotels and rental cars, and 5x miles on flights booked through Capital One Travel, and 2x miles on everything else you buy with Venture X. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges. The Venture X card from Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
All right, now we've got, and I've got, look at that, it's a pattern, and it's on the right side. And you're on the left.
That's right.
Okay.
No,
correct.
That's left.
Whatever, yes.
Right.
Are you...
left.
So you had what for breakfast this morning?
No, I had a smoothie. Not what.
Oh.
I had a smoothie.
Because I was going to say, I don't know if that's legal in where we are right now.
In some states, I'm sure there are some states where it's not.
Did you wear your mask? That's all I want to know. We're still in Pandemicville.
You know, the interesting thing is I woke up, in one of the middle of the night wake-ups, and that happened to us at this age, and I woke up.
Wait a minute, what age are you talking about? I'm not familiar with that.
Well, it soon to come. Tom,
I see.
Soon.
Oh, okay.
So I woke up, and one of the things that crossed my mind was that I wanted a smoothie. It was like 3:30 in the morning, and
you might want to. Am I interrupting the story? Because I never do that.
That's okay. You're only enhancing it. You're not interrupting it.
We'll go with that. So you might want to define smoothie for people.
Oh, that's true. It may be regionalism because
Very much.
we are talking about culture here.
Yes.
This is, after all.
Are we?
We are. It's a cultural thing.
I'm sure it is.
And maybe the word smoothie is a regionalism, but here in the Northeast, the smoothie is a, how would you define it? Oh.
My gosh, squirrels are running through.
Whoa.
Literally, a squirrel just ran through the studio. Now, you may wonder about that.
It didn't just run through the studio. It ran under my feet.
It did.
Wow.
You could have said the other thing. Yeah. Well, if in our last podcast,
it was a big squirrel.
It was a pretty big
this
squirrel.
Was not...
Which, by the way, are just rats with fuzzy tails.
That's why I'm freaked out.
Yeah.
I just got the bubonic plague. I'm working so hard against.
Well,
against
that's all
COVID.
for today. We
and now in 2 seconds I got the plague.
That's right. Oh my goodness! Well, we're off to a good start. You know,
we are. I had a smoothie at 4 a.m. where I thought I wanted one. I rarely wake up thinking of what I want for breakfast at 3:30 in the morning. But I really had a taste for smoothie.
You needed a smoothie at 3:30 in the morning.
I did.
Is that your phone? Is that your phone going off?
Yeah. Well,
so, okay, maybe it's a squirrel calling. It's doing it again. You can dress them up. You can drag them into a pseudo studio, but you can't say that 3 times fast. By the way, pseudo studio. But
pseudo studio.
You can't get him to turn the damn phone off.
I dated her in the 7th grade.
Did you?
Yeah,
no,
right.
We already went there. Wow. Well, that's all for today, folks. And now a plane is flying by.
It's
being
absolutely
hell
piloted
here.
by a squirrel. Actually,
I
with
think I saw that commercial.
Rockies up front and Bullwinkles in the back.
Yeah. Moose and squirrel.
And
you have to be of a certain age bracket, I think.
Is
for
that a
one.
regionalism or is that a generational thing?
Both.
Okay, let's go back to the smoothie and the regional.
Hold on, we're backing up. It's replay time.
I heard some French in there for a second.
Well, and Russian, I believe, in there. Yeah.
So a smoothie, I think, is a combination. It's like a milkshake, but you put anything in it. It's usually made with fruit or whatever fruit you have around the house, and some ice.
I could say something, but I didn't.
Well, you should have.
No, I should not.
You throw it all in a blender, put some ice in there. I put in peanut butter and a little bit of yogurt, some maple syrup, and some greens. This morning I threw in some arugula.
It's too bad you didn't put anything to sweeten it up a little bit, you know?
Threw it all in, blended it
Threw
up.
the greens in just to make yourself feel better, didn't you?
Yes.
Didn't you? Come on.
I counted them out. It was 3 fronds of arugula. That was it. 3 fronds of arugula.
3 fronds of arugula.
I think they played Vegas also.
They did. That was a movie with Audrey Hepburn and someone.
And Charles Boyer. I don't
Sure,
know.
why
Right.
not? I think it was in Italy, so I don't know what Boyer was doing there.
So let's explain to the listeners, if we have any left
Who Charles
here.
Boyer is?
No, they don't know that. Then there's
That's
nothing.
their problem.
It's like what Louis Armstrong said about jazz. If
Yeah.
I have to explain it,
Forget
it.
Yeah. Did you? So you threw all of this into a blender,
Yeah,
and then you zapped that blender a few times,
that's right.
and then you
Drank it.
drank/ate it.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and it's kind of, well, you can make it as thin or as thick as you like.
Yeah, those are words to live by right there. That's for
It's
sure.
a motto for life.
Isn't it?
Sometimes you want it thin, and sometimes you want
Okay.
it thick.
Anyway, we're
Moving along.
I'm sure there's some sort of cultural aspect to that, but
Well,
Mm-hmm.
say
yes.
that's
What?
that's the cultural piece.
Oh,
And
you know what? You know,
If
yeah.
you really want to back up.
Oh, okay. Oh,
If you
great.
really want to back up,
Okay, yeah.
I got to ask the question.
Yeah.
Why was I talking about my smoothie?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because, oops. Your culture's showing.
I think I was talking about the smoothie because of the mushrooms, which I did
Sure.
not put into the smoothie.
No shrooms in the smoothie, eh?
This was a
Shroom
shroom
sans... No, smoothie sans shrooms.
sans shroom.
Sans shroom. I think he also was in the movie with Audrey Hepburn.
He was the singer in the background.
3 fronds in the smoothie.
Three
I don't know.
fronds. Oh, we had a little German influence in there too.
Could have been. Might have been Austrian.
Austrian.
Yes.
Or
We have another
Swiss
plane
German.
coming through if you hear that in the background.
This one is being piloted by Bullwinkle.
But thank goodness he's a much better pilot.
So explain to to the 3 listeners who remain why do we
3 listeners who remain.
why do we have planes and chipmunks and squirrels running through the studio?
And geese better hurry when you're
Out
out in Surrey. When
Another generationally related.
Absolutely. Well, there was a new version of it that hit Broadway a few years ago for if you happen to be a housewife in New Jersey that might recognize it, or a school group coming in from Kansas.
I saw it. I saw that show.
Did you see
Yes,
that show? Did you enjoy it?
The most recent production of Oklahoma.
Yes, and there won't be one for a while because
Not
there's
for a while.
nothing happening
For
right
the
now.
same reason that there
we're
were
in the-
squirrels in the studio.
That's right.
Explain it to them.
Okay,
Tom.
the last time we did the podcast, in our last podcast, we were, because of the pandemic, we weren't inside. We were outside. It was lovely, lovely weather, and it is still that scenario right now. So we are still outside. We are under the tree studio, and it's still pretty nice weather. It's a little cloudier today than it was the last time.
It is spooky today.
Is it spooky?
One of the things I noticed drinking my smoothie this morning, looking
Yes.
out the window, was
Yes.
that it was foggy. And I immediately opened up my phone and took a look at the weather, and it said fog. And now I haven't seen that as a weather forecast for Connecticut, where we are, in a long, long time. And then I looked out and I saw the leaves just a little yellowish, and they're starting to fall. And then I stepped out into the studio, and I noticed the mushrooms. These things are so weird.
Yeah.
Think about it.
They are weird.
They weren't there last night, and there they were. These mushrooms, I wish, well, you could see them, but I wish the listeners
I
could
can see them. In fact, I can just kind of look over my right shoulder, and there are mushrooms.
We know nothing about them. And
We know very little.
I've done a little research on this, and
Have you?
yes, because
Wow.
I was fascinated.
Really
I was
really
fascinated.
hungry for information during the pandemic, right?
No, pre-pandemic, I was in the Baltics. I don't know if we've spoken about the Baltics as a culture.
A little bit, but not much.
And let me clarify, because a lot of people get confused between the Balkans and the Baltics.
Ah, yes.
Right, so the Baltics.
Well, they both have balls.
They do.
No, am I wrong with that? I mean, I'm not the expert here.
No, they do begin with balls.
Right, there you go.
They both begin with balls.
That's my point, I believe.
Right. But
yes.
But in the north, the balls end with ticks.
I see.
And in the south, the balls end with cons.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So you have to add ticks to your balls in the north. And cons to your balls in the south.
In the south, right. Well,
so
makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so the Baltics are on the Baltic Sea in the north. Near,
on the Baltic Sea,
near Scandinavia, Finland, and Russia. And by the way, as an aside to this, I will come back to the Baltics.
This is besides the Baltics or the Balkans?
Well, actually, they are beside the Baltics.
Okay, beside the Baltics.
Scandinavia and Finland.
We're talking geographically located.
Geographically,
now.
Right.
Okay.
Right. It's important, though. These are Nordic cultures, right?
Nordic, yes.
Finland is not part of Scandinavia.
No. Okay.
So people have to, you can't say these things.
Do your homework, people.
Do your homework, right.
Come on.
And that's why we're here, to help with
We're trying to help enlighten you.
Yeah. So the Scandinavian countries.
Yeah, so far, we've done a great job of.
So the Scandinavian countries,
yes.
Sweden, Norway, Denmark.
Yes.
All right. They're related culturally. The languages are fairly similar. They all three come from similar traditions, heavily influenced by the Viking tradition.
Right.
Right. And this would also include Iceland.
Yes, and we've spoken about that aspect a few times.
But
check out some previous podcasts.
Right.
Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
But the point here is that it does not include Finland.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, well, as soon as you say that, you're admitting that you did. But that's okay, because you never interrupt. You always enhance.
Is that right?
Yes.
Enhancement.
That's why you're here.
Okay.
And we didn't introduce ourselves.
Well, so far we're talking about Baltics and Balkans and enhancing oneself with your smoothie, maybe.
Right. And the mushrooms.
And
it's all going to come together, folks. Hang on.
well, at least that's the hope. And before, the clock turns to tomorrow, you may make a great point there, and it may be the only point you've made so far, which is that you, in fact, are Dean Foster, and I am Tom Peterson,
and we are here.
Yes.
Because we're talking about culture.
Yes.
And the cultural piece to all this.
Here it comes. Yes.
My point was that Finland is not a Scandinavian culture.
Right.
It doesn't share the same roots.
Okay. How does that get us to the Balkans or the Baltics?
Because, hang on.
Yeah. Okay.
Hang on.
Just trying to keep it, together.
Because the Vikings were not part of the Finnish legacy.
They were not Finnish.
No. And the language in Finland is a completely different language from any of the other Scandinavian languages.
Now, is it moved more towards Russian or
yes,
something in that area?
The roots are much more towards
because it's actually part
Russia.
Of that, geographically.
That's
part of
right.
that.
That's right. And the Russians certainly think so.
They do. And have made it so a couple of times.
Historically have tried.
Yep.
Right. That's right.
Yep.
So my point in all this is that in that Finno-Ugric Baltic region.
I'm sorry. You all right over there?
The Finno-Ugric.
Yeah.
That's the root of the language, actually.
Okay.
And it's the same language root that that Estonian.
Yeah.
They speak in Estonia.
Oh, okay.
So Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, the three Baltics.
Yes.
They're related because and Finland because they share those similar traditions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So and now in all of these countries, when I was in the Baltics several years ago, we discovered that one of the great activities, recreational activities, is in season. Everybody goes out and picks mushrooms.
Okay.
I mean, you're the weekend in the spring or the fall. Everyone's in the forest surrounding the town, whatever town you're in.
Okay.
Or in the parks, and they're picking mushrooms. And every Balt knows their mushrooms. They know their shrooms in the Baltics. Oh, they're shroom savvy. They're shroom savvy. Nice. Oh yes. Nice. Oh yes. Which put me to shame because I have.
Well, you're
no
not Baltic. You're American. We don't know anything about most things.
Unless this comes wrapped in cellophane and you picked it up from Stop and Shop.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, now are they doing this on a commercial venture, or is this for their own use, or is it a combination
No,
of those?
you go. It's recreational. You go out into the forest, the nearby forest, and, you pick your shrooms, and you come back home and you eat them, or you have a picnic.
Okay.
And it's really it's an activity that everybody participates in.
Interesting.
Everybody learns
Children.
their shrooms, right?
So they know their shrooms in the Baltics.
I think you have to take a shroom course.
Do you?
In elementary school.
Shroom study. Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah, okay.
What room do you go to study your shrooms in? Where is
But the shroom room?
the shroom room?
I believe. Makes sense.
The only thing that
Makes
I
perfect sense.
I have no knowledge of mycology whatsoever.
Okay.
And
Mike who?
mycology.
Oh, okay.
Remember him?
No, I don't. I don't. I may have been during my college years, and shrooms might have played a role.
He was one of the first vegetarians that I ever knew.
Is that
in
right?
school.
Yeah.
So, look it up, folks. Mycology, the study of mushrooms.
There you go.
So, the only thing I would know is if I looked at a mushroom, if it was red or pink and had dots on it or something. I would
Whether
go,
they're cool looking or not.
cool, very cool looking. But I
Yeah.
would go, oh, wait a minute, I'm not eating that.
No,
That-
not taking
that
the
looks
chance.
like one of the bad ones.
You-
I'm probably wrong, but what do I know?
That's probably a smart move, though. Not having the knowledge that could keep you alive probably says don't go down that road.
Right. This road says even though you don't know, go there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was in my 20s.
Right.
The other road says because you don't know,
Uh-huh.
don't go there.
Yeah. Bad idea.
Yeah, that road I've been taking more frequently.
This is one of those moments
Last
where
few
you're going to go,
decades.
oh, I probably shouldn't have done that. Right. Yep. Yeah, well, I think we've covered that quite well. We haven't
The
clearly.
threads
Right.
that connect all of this.
Yes.
This is where the brilliance
Connect us
comes.
all eventually.
This is
This is where the brilliance comes.
Yeah,
is
this
that
is
what
like
you're telling us?
Yes, this
Okay.
is like Ulysses. This is like reading Ulysses.
Is it?
Listening to this podcast
it?
is like reading Ulysses.
Or listen. You could listen to it. I think I did listen to it, actually.
Well, you could do that
Yeah.
too
Yeah.
on a shroom.
Well,
Can you imagine?
without any help at all, you
Wow.
could listen to it on a shroom. Uh-huh.
Can you imagine? Oh,
Can you imagine?
I can't imagine what
I cannot.
Ulysses would be like on a shroom.
No, thank you.
Oh, man.
No, thank you. It's also quite long, so
And it's also quite a visual image of Ulysses on a shroom.
Yeah. I think
The original
didn't
Ulysses.
Lewis Carroll write that actually. Ulysses on a shroom.
I think that's part of Alice in Wonderland.
That was
actually.
definitely through the looking glass. That's
Sure.
definitely, yeah. Okay.
Well, my point is, this was all because
Are we finally getting to your point?
it's connecting.
You announced it about a year ago, I think.
So these shrooms popped up, and the fog that rolled in this morning, and it's all making me think it's getting sprite-like. It's getting spirit-like.
It's getting sprite-like and
Yeah.
spirit-like. Okay. Mhm.
It's that time of year.
Yeah.
And
It's getting darker.
we've got Halloween
At least
coming up.
here in the northern hemisphere, on the upper areas of the northern hemisphere,
North of the equator.
We are
well
seeing
north of the equator.
well north of the equator. We are seeing earlier sunsets, and later sunrises, so we get less and less daylight.
And this fog just made me think about all these traditions that exist all around the world of what do we do to keep back the dark,
Yeah.
to fight the darkness,
The coming of the
darkness
darkness.
of any form,
Right. Okay.
fear and
I think we've lost that already in 2020. The darkness has figured out a way to win on a daily basis.
2020, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's become the new.
I mean, the
curse word.
fact that you can define any kind of spookiness in the midst of what's going on right now, I tip my hat to you. Literally, I'm wearing a hat right now. I just tipped it. which is something we could talk about. Where did that come from? But because I'm sure there's a cultural piece to that.
And Tom is wearing a Yankees hat.
I am, and a New York Yankees hat, which is a baseball team
right.
here in the Northeast.
As opposed to the culture of the 19th century in the United States.
right, and still the culture of the United States in some facets. Yes.
Now, are you a Yankees fan?
I am a New York Yankees fan. Yes,
right,
yes,
right. And you say that with quite a lot of sincerity and intent.
Absolutely, have been my entire life, and
there's
and always
no
will be.
prevarication around that.
None whatsoever. And the fortunate thing of being a New York Yankees fan is they tend to win on a regular basis. So you do have that going for you, that you can be incredibly obnoxious.
Now tell us the truth, Tom.
Yes.
Were you a fan before they won on a regular basis, or was one of the reasons you became a fan was precisely because you'd always be backing the winning team, so you might as well jump on the Yankee bandwagon?
Here's the reality of it. Although there have been some dry spells, in baseball, and I'm sure in parts of the world right now that don't care about baseball, if you're listening to this, you're just going
90% of the
we don't
world.
care. Well, no, I wouldn't say so. I mean, baseball is very large in the Asian countries. It's quite
It's
big.
true, and in certain Latin American countries.
America, South America, Australia, China. It's that may go with Asian, but it's certainly in quite a bit of the world now.
But you can't stack it up against football, soccer.
No, not soccer. What we know is soccer. Right. It's in the world picture against American football. It is far more prevalent throughout the world.
I mean, football.
They're trying,
soccer
but yes,
is a world sport.
The only other real sport.
Baseball is still viewed as an American sport.
It's it's very much an American sport. Because the players who can play well anywhere in the world look to come to the Major League Baseball in the United States.
There you go. Right.
It's the creme de la creme. However, I say that Major League Baseball in the United States is probably one of the great cultural experiments going on, and has been for some time now. That because it's filled with dugouts where people sit during these games from the teams, under normal circumstances anyway, have several interpreters in them now, just so that the manager of the team can speak with some of his players. Because you will have a variety of languages that are spoken.
Right, and these players are sourced internationally.
Absolutely, and they come from, as you mentioned, certainly Latin America, from Central America down through South America and into the Caribbean, and so you get a lot of different versions of language in there. I mean, obviously you get a lot of Spanish, but that is you'll get dialects, of course, but you'll also get the Brazilian Portuguese. You get you get different dialects that are in the Caribbean. You get Dutch, both from Europe and as well as some of the islands, Aruba, and other places like that. So it's really kind of and we'll have to go deeper into that. I don't think we're headed there today, but yeah, that's. So to answer your question, was did I jump on the bandwagon, as the saying goes in the U.S.? I'm not sure I know where it comes from. I just don't know how worldwide it is. But which simply means getting on because things are going well, so you jump and follow along and proclaim your allegiance.
As opposed to being the first one to say, I'm no matter what's happening, I'm with them.
Right. I'm on board anyway.
Now, knowing you, I'm going to say you didn't care. You were impressed, of course, by their success, but you supported them precisely because of their skill, which enabled their success.
I will go with that.
And not the success itself.
Sure, let's go with that. Thanks for digging me out of that. Actually, to be honest, I became a baseball fan / Yankee fan at such an early age. I don't remember. My older brother, who was a big influence on me, who was like 10 years older than I am, and he was a Yankee fan, and so I really didn't think of anything else being that. Not to mention that in my early years, almost literally the Yankees won every single year, so it would have been impossible, and had been doing so for decades. So it would have been impossible for me to jump onto this bandwagon any other way. I would have been quite old to get there before the winning started.
It would have been fate. It would have. This was beshert, as we say in Persian. In many other teams over the years, there have been. This is true in all sports, team sports like this with big followings. There were teams that were perennial losers. Sometimes never even came close. Was it the
to
Chicago
winning.
Cubs? I think?
Chicago Cubs are
Right.
one. The Boston Red Sox were one in baseball. Boston Red Sox were one. Now, in recent times, Boston Red Sox have won and have won pretty consistently. Not this particular year, but in other years. And the Chicago Cubs finally managed to win. Now the Cleveland Indians, and maybe it's the right thing to have the Cleveland Indians suffering the longest drought without any real victories, championships. So in the United States, but we will not dive into that subject. We don't have enough time on this particular podcast. But anyway, that's what's going on with that. So that jumped out of my hat.
From underneath your hat.
Underneath my hat.
Right.
Literally.
And do you know if any baseball players of note were sourced from the Baltics or from the Balkans?
You know, good question. I
we
do
should ask
believe.
Torrin.
Well, good point. We haven't even spoken about Torrin,
Where
who's
is
remote
Torrin?
again today.
He is remote.
He's been remote a lot.
He's not on studio.
No,
I'm not.
he's not.
With
He
the,
may have been
with
with-
the squirrels and
I think he's
Bullwinkle.
afraid
there
of
are
the
squirrels
squirrels
here.
and the mushrooms and the airplane. And
This is a very dangerous place. Here.
Flying moose.
We've got poisonous mushrooms growing here out of the fog of the night.
That's right.
We have Bullwinkle piloting a plane overhead.
And Rocky
mad-
running through the studio.
And mad squirrels.
Mad
I mean,
squirrels.
I
He
just
was at least annoyed. Yes.
But I just almost got
Easy for you to say.
exposed to the bubonic plague. I'm spending all my energy just not trying to get COVID. And I got
And here comes the bee plague.
the big B.
That's right. BP. Oh, that's a different story.
I thought that's what happens in the middle of the night.
And then you need a smoothie. See, folks, it all comes back
I
around.
told you it was like
See that?
Ulysses on mushrooms.
Is-
I told you.
See?
You just have to stay with it.
Wow.
All right, I have no idea what we're talking about any longer. I thought I did. I thought I had an idea, but
You know, one thing that I did want to say.
oh yeah, okay, because I normally stop you from
It's-
saying
it's
things.
not that I couldn't. I could have said it before, but more interesting things, kept
They just
came up
keep popping up like
the-
mushrooms.
in the.
Mm.
There we go.
See?
Like purple spotted mushrooms.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Make sure it's a mushroom.
But I'm
you know?
going to go over to this one and take a look at it.
Are you?
You want to dare me?
No. Yeah.
Come on.
Come on, you can do it.
Come
Do
on, you
it.
can
Do it. 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 But,
No,
those
but
of you who do not know us personally will not know that we've gotten into considerable difficulties and problems because I tend to urge us into doing things that we probably have known we shouldn't do. Remember those roads that we went?
That's that first road.
That's that first road.
Yeah, back in the 20s.
Yeah. Yep.
Not the 1920s. The time we were in our 20s.
That's right.
Which was almost
Almost close enough. We're in the 2020s right now, which is the roaring 20s. They are roaring.
Oh, they're roaring. They're doing a good job.
Something's roaring, and I'm hoping it's the 20s and not something else.
Oh, please, God. This year could not go away fast enough.
I know. If only the calendar actually meant something,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I'm going to hope it does. Let's just go with that.
Well, so.
And
what
besides,
I-
it's our calendar, and there's a bunch of other calendars, which is another podcast also.
Well, there's, almost every 2 or 3 months, I think, it's probably a valid statistic. You could be somewhere in the world and be celebrating New Year's.
Oh, we just hit Yom Kippur.
Well,
here, so-
Yom Kippur is actually tomorrow, I believe, but Rosh Hashanah,
Right.
which is the celebration of the New Year,
New Year.
in the Jewish
Right.
tradition, and then you have Iranian New Year, you have throughout the year you have Burmese New Year, you have 2 different New Years in India, depending on which tradition you're coming out of. There's East Asian New Year, which, Chinese and Vietnamese and Korean, etc. So depending on what calendar you're on,
right,
and what traditions you're following.
There's Mayan New Year.
There is the Mayan New Year. That's right, on the equinox. So you could theoretically, remortgage the house and then just go take a year and travel and just celebrate New Year's every few months.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Because we can really travel around now.
Put a bunch of shrooms in our pocket and go.
If we want to go to New Jersey, we might be all right.
Maybe.
Do they celebrate a different New Year there?
I'm sure they do.
Let's ask.
I'm sure they do.
Our friends in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Which New Year do you
Let
celebrate?
us know what New Year you celebrate, or maybe how many of them you celebrate.
Right. You can celebrate more than one.
Multiple New Years.
Which is a good thing, because when you really need the old year to end, you can start
pull
all
up a
over
new year.
Right.
Go with it.
Pull one up.
Yeah.
Suddenly I'm Burmese because I need this old year to end real fast.
Oh, well.
Well, so is there a Balkan New Year, which is different from the Baltics? I mentioned don't confuse your Baltics with your Balkans.
Right. You don't want Well, now we've got Balkans. We had Balkans before. Which one are we going with?
Well, it's really Balkans.
So it's the Balkans.
Right.
Is that where we're going with? Or were you saying something else? Am I misconstruing you?
Well, you could interpret anything. I
wouldn't
say
want
the
you to
way
be misconstrued.
You would like to hear it. That is always your option.
Oh, well, true. I don't believe that was my question.
Anyway, my point was that the Baltics,
thank goodness, we're getting to the point.
Geographically are up in the north, and near Scandinavia and Russia.
Right, we did that. Scandinavian, Finland.
And the Balkans.
Not Scandinavian, okay.
Are in the south.
Yes.
They're in what would generally refer to as former Yugoslavia.
Okay.
But now made up of multiple independent nations. Right, and those are the Balkans.
Okay.
And I would include Greece in that, but that's a whole other discussion.
Am I thinking that we would be in for quite a brouhaha?
It's one of the most complicated cultural regions in the world.
Yeah.
Yes. And for that reason, there could be lots of different opinions.
There's a lot of argumentative aspects to that area of the world right now.
Well, the differences
at the very least argumentative.
The differences that exist between the various cultures in that region are significant, and they've been politically dynamite.
Right.
Right.
Well, and it also comes in an area where there's a lot of similarities, unless I'm mistaken, a lot of similarities between them, but a lot of differences in the way they view things, etc., as is true in many other areas of the world.
Well, yeah, there's a lot that makes them all the same under the surface. For example, culturally, most of the region is Slavic.
Right.
Right. So there's a similarity in language. There's a similarity in cultural traditions. But then when you get beyond that, the differences that separate these cultures have been politicized. And therefore, the differences are emphasized. So, for example, you've got Serbs speaking Serbo-Croatian, and you've got Croats speaking Croat or Croat-Serbian. And it's essentially the same language, but they will not, neither side will admit that to the other.
Sure.
Right.
Right.
And the Serbs write their language with a Cyrillic script from the Russian script, the Eastern script. But Croats write their language with a Western script, basically influenced by Rome. So similarities, fundamental, yes. But then there's many superficial differences, which then become politicized and then make each group puts each group against each other.
Sure.
So the Balkans are in the south. This is that very complicated region. In the north, we have the Baltics. Okay? And both have mushrooms and great baseball players.
Sure.
Let's go with good baseball players. All right. But great mushrooms.
Great
mushrooms. Yep. It's yes, Torrin was going to have to try to find something out there. Although
was I
mean, we're not hearing any kind of real good information from him today at all. So
well,
I don't know
if
he'll come up with some great Balkan or Baltic baseball players for us, but it's something to look into.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We may have to report on it in another one of these podcasts, though.
True.
But
We'll
nevertheless,
see what I find.
we can do that.
And now religion plays a significant difference here too.
Oh,
right?
does it?
Yes. Yeah. So
In that area of the world?
in both areas of the world, Baltics and Balkans.
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
In the Balkans in the south, you've got the Eastern religion, Eastern Orthodox, basically from Russia, from further east,
Okay.
and that influences Serbia, for example. And then you've got Christianity, the Western form, the Roman Catholic Christianity, influencing, let's say, the Croats, Croatia, and other countries in the region.
Right.
And then you have a third religious tradition, which is part of the Balkan tradition, which is Islam.
Mm.
Came from the Turks because Turkey is very nearby,
Mhm.
and over through history, the Turks have ruled that area.
Mhm.
So you've got these three religious traditions, which also pits each group against each other.
Mhm.
And up in the Baltics in the north, you've got Estonia, which is mainly Protestant, Lutheran, again very similar to Finland,
Mhm.
and then you've got Latvia, which has been heavily influenced by Eastern Orthodoxy and Russia,
Mhm.
and then you have Lithuania, which is Roman Catholic, just like Poland, just nearby.
Right. Okay.
All right, so it's these religious traditions also that distinguish these three different countries in the north.
Hmm.
Yeah, and they all like mushrooms.
Excellent. And hopefully baseball. But
They should be selling mushrooms at the baseball games. That'll call out every Balkan and every Baltic fan, right? Just
let's hope we can get fans into a baseball game soon.
right.
That's the goal right now. Yeah. Okay. So it's some time, hopefully, maybe people will be listening to this in the future when we will be able to travel around a little more. And if anybody is traveling to those either or both of those two areas of the world, they can take into consideration, especially in the Balkans, I think, the idea of crossing a country border may give you a whole new list of things you can and cannot talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that they should be aware of. That may be a little too long for us to go through at this moment, but it certainly is something that people should be aware of.
Absolutely, because you're going to be stepping on a lot of toes and a lot of feelings. I mean, this stuff is really on the surface there.
Now, but maybe kind of an interesting aspect of all of that, if people, I know people aren't traveling as much right now, but with the
But we will.
But we're also
This will end.
We're still and we're still communicating.
Absolutely.
And therefore, understanding these things, that doesn't change just because you haven't actually crossed a border.
If I'm on a Zoom call and I've got people from different parts of the Balkan region,
yeah,
I've got to be very sensitive about what I say.
Sure. All right. Well, you know what, Dean? This has been a fascinating podcast.
Isn't it always?
Well, no, sometimes not.
Well,
just in the candor. I'm just going for candor here.
and I'm just going for ebb.
Again, reference Broadway musical. Look it up, people. Torrin's looking it up right now, and he doesn't even have to. He understands it. So
listen, life is a cabaret. What can I say?
Yes, thanks a lot there. And Liza with a Z, which is another area there. Again, look it up. The Torrin, we want to thank Torrin for doing less than nothing in this particular.
And by the way, none of these non sequiturs come from Ulysses.
No, they don't.
None of them.
Didn't he have to sail past the non sequiturs and not to give in to them or something like that?
Yes, because they would sing and the sailors would fall overboard.
Yeah,
right.
As opposed to the sequiturs who couldn't even carry a tune. They just everything's just the same thing going on, and yeah.
And then there were the scimitars. Never mind.
Which I thought was a vacuum brand, but never mind. So thank you, Dean Foster, for your input into this wonderful and your valuable input, which I don't always get to say, but your valuable input in this particular podcast.
Well, I think we're all under great stress these days.
Are we?
I think we are.
We are. I think we are. Yes.
So if there was any value at all, I'm surprised.
Well, we'll go with a yes on that. All right. That gets us back for the next one. All right. Well, thank you, Dean. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.
And
thanks to you, dear listener.
Yes.
absolutely for listening to us and for understanding that. Oops, your culture's showing. Still smell you. Okay, listen, the way to get hold of us is oopscultureshow@gmail.com. And our Twitter handle is oopscultureshow. Whether this is the first episode or the third episode or whatever episode that you've listened to, you should really subscribe. That's the best way to go, really, honestly. I know what I'm talking about. All right, so just subscribe through iTunes or through wherever you get your podcasts from. Subscribe. Thank you.
Is your new year still falling flat? You are not alone. This year, millions will be diagnosed with low energy. But Planet Fitness has the cure. Boost your energy with tons of equipment in our clean and spacious clubs for $1 down and $10 a month. No commitment. Cancel anytime. Deal ends January 31st. See Home Club for details.